How will the LSU offense improve under Joe Sloan in year two? You'll hear from the OC himself next. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you for that. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On Friday, after practice, the media had an opportunity to visit with Joe Sloan. And when Joe was finished, he and LSU Sports Information Director Michael Bonnet were leaving the media room. And Michael Bonnet sort of jokingly turned to the media and said, "Everybody take a good look. Say bye, Joe. You won't see me again until the spring." Because typically we have one opportunity during the course of the year to speak to Joe Sloan. That's during fall camp. So our opportunity to spend 20 minutes or so with Joe Sloan was the only opportunity we will likely get until spring. Now, there could be outliers. Had a chance to interview Joe Sloan when we did our show in New York at the Heisman presentation with Jay Daniels, won the Heisman Trophy. And there might be outliers. Hope there's an outlier like that this year with Garrett Nussmeier. But the bottom line is this was an opportunity to talk to Joe Sloan and hear his assessment of what he's hoping to see as far as progress from year one to year two as play caller, as the LSU offensive coordinator. And then a lot of things we've talked about. Naturally, the inability from LSU this season to go to run the ball, how they're trying to fix that. The quarterbacks behind Garrett Nussmeier. And what about preparing for that LSU defense in practice every day? We covered all of that ground with Joe Sloan, and it's worth dedicating an episode to this because, as I mentioned, not going to hear from Joe Sloan again until the spring. So we'll make the most of it. I'm not just going to play a press conference for you. What I'm going to do is I've clipped and cherry-picked some of the things that I think are the most significant of what Joe said. I'll play it for you and we'll react to it. Now, we'll start, though, with Joe's assessment of what he had to work on going into year two, sort of self-scouting himself from year one as offensive coordinator to year two.
There was a ton of reflection, right, on me, on us as an offensive staff, on us as players, on us as quarterback, right? And I think it all fits together, right? It all fits together. And how can we build an appropriate, right, an offensive attack around the players that we have to highlight their strengths? And I think that's what really has been our focus, and using other creative ways to do that, right? And, I think every year we're a different team. So I think that's really been the biggest approach is how can we do different things to create maybe some easier opportunities for Garrett and for our offense to create some explosives. And that whether that be in the run game, whether that be in the pass game, or whatever that might be. And then I think also, too, defenses are evolving, right? I think we saw some things last year that we didn't see the year prior, just in terms of some of the coordinators that are in the league. So being able to adapt to some of that and fit some of our concepts, run game, pass game, screen game, to make sure that we have great answers for what we're going to see, and trying to be a step ahead, thinking that way. And, I think our big thing is this year our focus is going to be keep it tight, keep it smaller, and really let our guys play fast with the answers, right? Have an answer within every play that we're going to call. And I think that will help us. That will help us a lot. Continue to be more efficient and take advantage when the opportunity comes to be explosive.
One of the themes you're going to hear throughout this conversation, and you use the word twice in that soundbite, explosive. Create explosive. The opportunity to be explosive. If we're being very honest, that's a spot where LSU wasn't very good a year ago, either in the running game or the passing game. LSU was 47th in the country a season ago in total offense. And that's not terrible. 47th in the country. The Tigers averaged over 431 yards a game. Like, that's a really solid year. The problem was they didn't always affect the scoreboard or the explosive plays. And it's something Joe Sloan knows he needs to do, including in the running game, where a season ago, LSU, you've heard me, if you're an everydayer, you know this stat, you've probably committed to memory by now. LSU was 104th in the country in rushing offense. They were dead last in the SEC in rushing offense, and Joe Sloan knows they need to improve there.
I think obviously, you know, and I'm here to talk about this year, not last year, but we got to run the football, right? You got to run the football in the SEC, and you know, and I think that's critical, right? So establishing that in different ways, and I think we've looked at some scheme things. We've looked at some personnel things, right? It's a combination. You know, I think having Caden Durham as a second-year player, obviously he's an electric player and a really good football player, but he still was a true freshman last year that came in June, right? So having him as a second-year player, he's a lot better football player today than he was at this time last year. Well, that's because, you know, Frank Wilson's an excellent football coach. Our coaches in the weight room do an unbelievable job, right, and the development program that Coach Kelly's built within this building. So I think, you know, that just in general, right, some of those guys getting better, right, within the development. And I think, right, Garrett's understanding of, right, how he can help. And then there's some schematic things where we're going to be able to put some guys in positions to make sure we can create some more explosives in the run game. And I think that's the key, right, is creating explosives in the run game.
Explosives in the run game. I'll remind you that when we were at practice on Tuesday of last week, Caden Durham polished off that practice with a 45-yard touchdown run around right end. It's something that we've seen pretty consistently so far in fall camp. Maybe the 6, 7, 8-yard gash runs aren't there, but the explosive plays are there. Again, you heard Joe Sloan say it whenever he was talking about assessing himself. You heard it when he was talking about the running game. It is such a critical importance that they figure out how to affect the game with explosive plays. Now, another big part of the running game, you heard him say it there. They're going to be better. Like Caden Durham is better year to year. Is also healthier. Played part of last year with 2 dislocated toes. He mentioned Garrett Nussmeier helping in the running game, which he will. Garrett Nussmeier isn't necessarily going to be the guy that rushes for 1,000 yards or 500 yards. But my opinion, I've told you in my stat, I think Garrett Nussmeier will be a 300-yard rusher for LSU this season, not because he's going to run a ton, but because he's going to pick those opportunities and he's going to find ways to affect the game positively. And then the other he said there is scheme. And scheme is going to be a big part of it. We've talked about it plenty. And it's not just blocking scheme. It's Juwan Johnson in the Wildcat. It's Caden Durham in the Wildcat. It's Juwan Johnson in the Wildcat with Nuss flexed out. It's Xavier Thomas lined up in the backfield as a running back. It's Xavier Thomas on a jet sweep. A lot of that is scheme and different ways that they're going to affect the run game, just ways they've showed us when we're there. Think of it this way. If they're willing to show us, the media, that when we're there in practice, what do you think they're working on when we're not there to tell the world what's going on? Oh, yeah, it's very evident they're going to be creative in the run game. And obviously, a big part of the run game improvement is improving on the offensive line. And I asked Joe Sloan a very open-ended question. As we've talked plenty about the offensive line here and everywhere, I said, through a week and a half of fall camp, I left it very open-ended. I said, what is your assessment of the offensive line?
One, I think our tackles have played extreme. Obviously, we have a lot of competition at guard. And I think you're seeing flashes of different guys daily who are playing really well. I think our tackles, you know, the 2 guys coming into spring where those 2 guys had, you know what I mean, are going to be first-year starters. And I think definitely when you watch, they have been excellent. You know, I mean, excellent in terms of their growth, right? They got to keep coming. They got to get better every day. But I've been really pleased with what they've done. I think the guards, there's a lot of competition, which has been fun to see. Guys are having to come out every single day and show up. And I think Braylon's played extremely good at center. And I think we have a couple other guys who could, you know, we have some depth at center, which is nice. You know, and then I think, you know, you see some of the young guys who are now starting to come on. I think this is the second half of camp where you'd like to see some of the freshmen or second-year players start to push and take that next step and challenge some of the guys that maybe are in front of them right now. And that'll be the big thing. You know, our defense throws a lot at us. You know, a lot at us from different fronts, different pressures. and seeing those, and once they get to rep them, and then understand how it feels and how to attack that. So I like the individual growth, and I like the collective growth of the offensive line. But just like the entire offense, we're going to need every day to get fully prepared for what we need to do this fall.
The end, let's work backwards. The end of that might be the most important. I like the individual growth the most. I like the collective growth as well. But he's telling you they've got talent there. He likes Braylon Moore at center. The word he used talking about the offensive tackles was excellent. Our offensive tackles have been excellent, which tells you Braylon Moore is great. The offensive tackles have been excellent. You got competition at guard, which is what he said. So DJ Chester at left guard, Josh Thompson at right guard, but you've got Paul Mabenga. You've got guys like other players who have rotated. Cohen Eccles, who's played both guard and center. It seems like it's far from established, but the last thing you said there, we need every rep, because that's the key here. The key to this offensive line, as I've said every day we've talked about it, they have talent on that offensive line. You have to get 5 to work as one, and that is a real challenge. And so you need every rep with those guys together, which is why the sooner you can identify who your starting 5 are going to be, the better, because they'll keep repping together. Now, Joe Sloan also mentioned going against that defense every single day, and they throw a lot. He's the way he said the defense throws a lot at us. The defense the last couple of years has not been very good. 2023 was the worst defense in the history of the program. A year ago, they were improved, but you're still talking about a defense that was right in the middle of the pack nationally in total defense. Sometimes the best perspective on how a side of the ball is improving is by asking the people that go against them every day. We asked Joe Sloan what he thinks of the defensive improvement from LSU. Oh, and there's more explosive talk coming. That's next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Listen, I love with Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. There's no hidden fees. You've probably been there before. I know I have, where you think you're going to pay something. By the time you get to checkout, there's fees on top of it, and it's a completely different price. Not with Gametime. The price you see is the price you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Joe Sloan talked about his backup quarterbacks, and I want you to hear that in just a quick second. But he also talked about the defense and the improvement that this defense has made from year to year, because they get to face him every day.
Now, players playing fast, right? The implementation of the defense, right, and the structure, so that there's less thinking, right, more ability to tinker and have different little things that they want to do based on alignments. And I think they're playing really smart football. But also, I think there's a lot of really good athletes over there too. I think the secondary is playing extremely well, and I think the whole front's playing well. They pose a lot of problems, right? And it's a good thing for us, right? Because then they make an adjustment, then we got to see it, and we got to make that adjustment. And I think that's great for our offensive line. I think our O-line's handled it really well. That's what I was talking about earlier. In terms of some of the different things that they've seen in a matter of 5-6 days, which has been good. But it's great for us to see. I think they got some twitchy guys inside coming off the football. Which is going to be really good and good to watch on the other side. You know what I mean? When we don't have to play them, so that'd be nice. But I think Blake does a great job. They have an unbelievable staff. I think the staff camaraderie together has been really good this offseason and leading into this fall. So it's been fun to see. But it's the camaraderie between the two sides of the football and just getting after it, kind of one day, drill to drill, whatever that might be. And I think you see relationships across the football, right? From whoever it might be, right? Defensive guys, offensive guys, living together, hanging out with each other. It creates that camaraderie that we're going to need, right? That's critical to our success as a team.
I think it also matters greatly that you have staff continuity as well. Of course, you bring in Alex Atkins this year, replacing Slade Nagel, who left for Houston to be the offensive coordinator, but that's the only full-time turnover you had on staff this year. You've retained the rest of your staff, which is really significant in a day and age where it is such a transient business. You maintain that continuity on staff. That's a benefit. Look, you've got two young coordinators in Joe Sloan and Blake Baker, who both have ambitions of being college football head coaches and will be college football head coaches. So you're not going to keep both those guys on staff forever, but maximizing your time with them together, I think, is significant. Now, back to the explosives, which has been a huge part of what Joe Sloan talked to us about. He was asked a question about Chris Hilton. And remember, Chris Hilton in his college career, this has been what really identifies and defines Chris Hilton's time as a college football player. In 2023, Chris Hilton had 13 catches, averaged 17.3 yards per catch. That tied Brian Thomas on that team, by the way, for yards per catch, just for perspective. Last year, we know Chris Hilton was just battled injury all season. By the time he got healthy, he caught 9 passes for an average of 27 yards per reception. They missed Chris Hilton because they missed the ability to stretch the field, which they had in 2023. Remember, in 2023, both Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas averaged better than 17 yards per reception. Think about that. Every time they caught the ball, it was nearly 17 yards. Kyron Lacey that year had 18 yards per reception. The point being, you had the ability in 23 to stretch the field, something you lacked a year ago. And Joe Sloan knows having Chris Hilton healthy flips that.
Obviously, his speed, I think you can look in the last couple games last year, our ability to attack vertically really changes when he's out there. I think Chris, I think Barryon, I think Nick, I think Xavier's playing better in terms of in that area of his aspect of his game. Being able to push the ball down the field is a huge thing. Chris has been consistent. I think he has great attitude, great body language, and is attacking every day. And that's when he does that, he's going to play really good football. I've been excited for him. I know he's been through a lot, but he definitely brings another element to our offense that is an important piece, right? When safeties come down, we need to be able to push the ball down the field. And Chris absolutely helps us. Because ultimately it's about scoring points. It's not just about yards, right? Yards is one thing, but we've got to score points. And that comes from, explosive, a lot of times comes from explosive play touchdowns. And he definitely gives us the opportunity to do that. So it's been exciting to watch him this spring, but I think fall camp he's dialed in. It's been good.
Explosive play touchdowns. How many times over the course of a press conference can Joe Sloan use the word or some variation of explosive play touchdowns? And you heard him say, it's not just Chris Hilton, it's Barryon Brown, it's Nick Anderson. He mentioned them by name. Why do you think LSU, despite having their leading receiver from a year ago, Aaron Anderson, returning, and Chris Hilton coming back off of injury for a senior season, why did they go add both Barryon Brown and Nick Anderson? Because LSU was not explosive a year ago. They have to be able to stretch the field like they did in 2023. Let me illustrate this for you just to point it out. If you look at 2024, you look at plays of 10 yards or more, LSU was 20th in the country. Okay? Not bad. 20th in the country on plays of 10 yards or more. You go to plays of 20 yards or more, LSU was 26th. You go to plays of 30 yards or more, LSU was 50th. You want to keep going? Plays of 40 yards or more, LSU was 32nd. But that really only is because you got Chris Hilton, who did it for you 3 times late in the season. The point being, it was a struggle for LSU to hit big, explosive plays down the field. If you want to even go further, plays of 50 yards or more, LSU was 110th in the country on plays of 50 yards or more a season ago. This was a problem for this team. LSU struggled to stretch the field and hit big plays. They hit a couple against South Alabama, but consistently in conference play, That's where you came up short. And it was tied directly to Chris Hilton's injury. When Hilton came back, that changed. And Joe Sloan told you, they're going to bring a safety in the box. We got to be able to hit him with an explosive. They weren't able to do it last year. Chris Hilton back, Berrien Brown, Nick Anderson. You should be able to do it this year. A couple of other things that Joe Sloan talked about, notably the depth at quarterback, because it's something we've talked a lot about with both Michael Van Buren and Colin Hurley. I want you to hear what Joe Sloan said as we wrap up Locked on LSU. And I also want to give you this week's schedule, because some might have thought with the Nuss injury scare, I'm using air quotes there, that they'd shut down practice. Not the case. We're actually have full media availability to watch the entire practice on Monday, and I'm looking forward to that. We'll continue here, Locked on LSU. It's your team every day. You know who takes care of LSU's top athletes? It's Our Lady of the Lake. And that same level of care is available to you and to me. Part of the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady Health System and the official championship health partner of LSU, Our Lady of the Lake is transforming healthcare. From clinical experience in sports medicine and student health to breakthrough research and medical education. We're talking game-changing care that keeps athletes at their best and builds a stronger, healthier Louisiana for all of us. Because this partnership isn't just about LSU sports. It's about caring for all of us, creating opportunity, and leading the next generation of healthcare talent right here at home. So, whether you're on the field, in the stands, or just doing life, know that championship-level healthcare is right here for you. Learn more at ololrmc.com/LSU. That's ololrmc.com/LSU. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together, we roar. Garrett Nussmeier is the undisputed leader of this team. No one's going to argue that. The future at quarterback, though, is murky. LSU brought in Michael Van Buren from Mississippi State. They returned Colin Hurley for his redshirt freshman year, and both have been sporadic at best during fall camp. It's early, and both are new, although Van Buren did go through spring. Colin Hurley did not, as he was recovering from a very serious auto accident, but Colin Hurley was an early enrollee a year ago when he reclassed. So he went through spring, then an entire season as a true freshman last year. Now he's into his redshirt freshman season. And Joe Sloan gives I'm going to warn you now, this is a very lengthy answer that Joe Sloan gave on his backup quarterbacks.
Michael played a lot of football. So in terms of experience and understanding what it's like to get hit, you know what I mean? What it's like to throw an interception and have to come back and play the next drive. I think he has a ton of those experiences that are hard to prepare somebody for if they haven't gone through it. All right. So I think he brings that level and he understands what it's going to take. I've been really proud of his growth, just his approach daily. Since he's gotten here, I think you've really seen him mature and go into being a second-year player. It's been fun to watch. He's a fun guy to be around. He's kind of quiet initially, so we just make him yell around the hallways, right? Which he does. Which he's fun though. He takes it. He takes hard coaching well. He wants to be great. From the spring, I mean, we have a lot of offense. This is a big offense, and I think learning all that, right, was a lot for him initially. He's really smart, but it's just a lot. And taking that and taking it into the summer, working at it, and then into August, I think he's had his best the last couple of days. Seeing him take more command, understand it, and he grows. Every rep he has, he grows, right? He grows, and that's what I want to see. I think some things technically he continues to get better at and make them more and more of a habit. It's been fun to have Colin back out there and getting reps. He's so talented, and he's really smart. Has great vision. His thing is a lot of these reps are brand new, right? So learning, coming back, correcting it. Learning, coming back, correcting it. He makes some freaky throws, right? And then he'll do something like a freshman, right? But as long as he keeps growing every day and slowly knocks those freshman things out, he has shown the ability to do everything that we need him to do. And I think so their growth every day, it's different in the room, right? Garrett's in one stage, and Mike's in one stage, and Colin's in one stage. So going through and doing those things on a daily basis, and they're all different, and challenging them in different ways has been a lot of fun. And I think, Coach Rattay and Coach Holtz have done helping, a ton with that, specifically with those two guys, has been really good. And then Jawan just brings a lot of different options to the offense. Obviously he's a different style of player than the other guys. Again, he's been fun in the room because he's going from being a first-year player to being a second-year player, and you can see his confidence, his personality showing, and continuing to grow. And I think he's developing in the position. But obviously, he's a guy that can do a lot of different things.
If you ask me point blank, I would tell you I don't think LSU's starting quarterback for 2026 is currently on the roster. You could certainly see growth, like we saw with Garrett Nussmeier. As a freshman and a redshirt freshman, he was not ready to play. When we saw Nussmeier play against Arkansas in that game back in 2021, it was not good. Now he's probably going to leave LSU as the all-time leading passer in the history of the program. So guys can get better. Can Van Buren and Hurley get better quickly enough to be the starter after Nussmeier in 2026? I'm not so sure, but plenty of time still to determine that. And plenty of time still for us to see the LSU Tigers. Tigers will be back on the practice field on Monday, and Brian Kelly's opening it up to media. We'll get to watch the entire practice on Monday, so excited to give you that practice report. And then Tuesday, we'll get to watch the end of practice, which is typically when they go team period. Wednesday and Thursday practice will be closed. They will also practice Friday, Saturday, but we do not have that availability yet. Once we do, we'll share it with you. We'll talk about it right here on Locked on LSU. So please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And be sure to let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked on LSU. It's your team every day, and we will have an LSU practice report, multiple, this week on Locked on LSU, your team every day.